My happy man child face. This is a Christian show.
Yep, since I love torturing myself, I'm coming back to this trash fire of a show. But before we do that, I just want to say something. I want to say a big thank you to everybody who subscribed and gave me so much love and support to the point where I got 1,000 subscribers again. Thanks a ton. It also means the world to me. Thank you so much. Every single one of you love and kisses to every single one of you. And also, I need you guys to do me a tiny little favor. I want you guys to go give some love to Kai and Omnia, some art commentators from the broken and busted ass community called the Art Commentary Community, because lately they've been getting a lot of hate and I thought maybe I could return the favor for them. So go check them out, give them some love. Don't say it's from me. Just say, hey Kai, hey Omnia, look, you guys are awesome. You make dope shit. Keep making it. You guys are cool. We love you. Just do that for me, please. And also, don't say it's from me. Just do that out of the kindness of your heart. So, and also, I want you guys to go give some love to Peaches because, well, Shrek decided to fall strike her. Yep. Listen, I'm just going to go on a little rant. If you don't want to hear me rant, skip to this time code. Lily Jean, can you please fuck off? You and your mother, can you please just fuck off? Stop fall striking channels. I thought that maybe you guys would stop after you succeeded in getting one channel terminated, but no, you're still going on with your bullshit. Please, both of you, fuck off, stop fucking fall striking channels, and just fuck off into the garbage can where you belong. Nobody fucking wants you around here anyway. Now, I know some people are going to be saying, oh, Christian, don't you think you're being a little bit harsh? Don't you think this is a little bit cruel? No, I don't think I'm crossing a line. Because when I felt suicidal and when I told Laura and Lily to stop harassing me, they didn't give a single fuck. And they said Lily Jean's name is much more important than me. So, fuck Lily Jean, fuck her mother, fuck the brand, and just fuck those... Okay, I think I'm good now. So let's tackle on the video, shall we? So let's talk about the top 20 worst Family Guy episodes. Now, I know you're thinking, oh, Christian, wasn't it top 10 before? Yeah, but there were just so many terrible episodes from this series that I had to extend the video's length for a little bit. So hopefully this video won't be an hour long. I will make sure of it. And let's just tackle some of the worst Family Guy episodes, in my opinion. Let's jump into this trash fire of a show. And here's my list of the top 20 worst Family Guy episodes. Peter thinks he's a pirate because he has a parrot on his shoulder. And there's a side plot of Chris falling in love with a veterinarian. The reason why this episode is placed on the list is because this really goes to show how childish Peter is. And this is where Flanderization really starts to kick in. Peter becomes much more childish and stupid in this episode. He even gives horrible advice to Chris when he has a relationship problem. And the episode just feels like it's misadvertising. It's supposed to be a pirate episode, right? But it only happens in the first couple of minutes, and then we focus on Chris's problem with his relationship. Yeah, I don't know. False advertising like that is just... no, I don't like it. And this was back in season 6. So I think, yeah, the fall really started to happen around season 6. In this episode, everybody is forced to stay indoors because of a hurricane outside. There's a side plot of Brian taking some shrooms, and as a result, he starts to hallucinate. The reason why everybody finds this episode so infamous is because of the moment where Meg finally stands up to her family, only to say, I should be like a lightning rod for my family's abuse. I mean, if it wasn't for that, not many people will bring up this episode. Because it's a very bland and very boring episode, as it's just a bottle scenario where the characters stay in one place throughout the majority of the episode. And the episode is just filler. And yeah, it has some pretty disgusting moments, like for example, Brian's psychopathic drug trip. But at the same time, you just take that out, you take out Meg standing up against her family. There's not really much to back on with this episode. It's a pretty boring episode. In this episode, Stewie starts to become an actor for ad commercials, ignoring the fact that they already did this with Olivia when Stewie was an actor in acting school, but I digress. The whole episode is just very bitter, and the reason why I hate this episode is because of Peter and Lois themselves. They're pretty much content with giving their infant child drugs. I mean, I shouldn't really be that shocked since these parents have already done this before. I mean, Peter gave Stewie steroids so he can build up muscle mass. Peter tried to do crystal meth with Chris, and Lois tried to give Meg pills when she was depressed. So it's not really that shocking, but it still is a bad episode. They're fucking horrible. Peter ends up getting roasted by his friends, so as a result he ends up making new friends with mean girls. As I've said before in my ranked video, this is an exact ripoff of the episode from American Dad, when Roger got roasted by his family and he decided to kill them. Which one is better? This one or this one? American Dad, obviously. Because it was a little bit more interesting because everybody was bitching about how Roger pretty much does nothing around the house, he's lazy, he's an idiot, and he actually tries to fix himself up. But it was also just a ploy just to get back at the family so he can kill them. And yeah, there were some graphic moments in that episode, but it was still a good episode. And it eventually ends with Roger learning his lesson, that they only do that because they're family. They can make fun of each other. With Peter, what does he learn? Oh, I should just be friends with my friends, even though they point out that a roast is just for funsies. It's literally the exact same copy and paste episode we've seen before. Moving on. After Carter cancels the Christmas festival, Peter is destined to get it back online. And there's a side plot of Stewie starting to become more distraught because of Brian's passing, so he decides to go back to bring him back to life. There's the problem right there. What was the point of killing Brian off if you just bring him back one episode? Like, it's literally one episode. Next, just moving on. In this episode, after a petty feud with a piece of chewing rope, Brian ends up knocking his teeth out, along with his nose looking like a
6.5-inch flaccid dick.
So Quagmire decides to hook him up on his dental plan, and as a result, he gets new teeth that looks like Quagmire. And the episode focuses on Brian becoming a real estate agent. It looks pretty good for him, but he has to sell the shittiest condo to somebody. So he decides to give it to Quagmire, the guy who helped him to begin with. That's pretty shitty. Yeah, the biggest problem with this episode is Peter and Brian themselves. Peter ends up being a plot device as he's pretty much being used just to drive the plot forward, and Brian's a dick for pretty much giving Quagmire a shitty condo, even though Quagmire helped him. Even though it's very uncharacteristic of Quagmire, considering the fact that he hates Brian so much. But hey, at least we end up on this note.
You son of a bitch!
Yeah, fuck you, Brian. Yep, I figured forget it. I'll just group both these episodes as one because they share a similar problem. For the first episode, it focuses on Quagmire's dad being a woman trapped in a man's body, so he decides to have a sex change operation. And as a result, Quagmire really can't take the change. The whole episode is basically just poking fun at transgendered people. It's very some immature shit I've seen from the series. And apparently there was a lot of drama after and before the episode aired, because Seth made this episode to say, oh, we love the LGBT. We love them so much. It's kind of a shame that they don't like us back, because we love them. So they wrote this character to make her sympathetic, but they ended up just making her into a joke. So Quagmire gets hit with statutory because he slept with an underage girl. And it seems like he's going to jail because that's exactly what he deserves. But no, he ends up being spared, and he gets to go back home because his mom blew the judge. No, his real mom, not Ida. What the This is the worst type of hitting the reset button because Quagmire deserves to have repercussions for his actions. He committed statutory. And I really don't get it. Why is it that when it comes to pedophiles or groomers, they get a quick slap on the wrist and they're like, yeah, just move on with your life. It doesn't matter. This is even common with what's going on in our world. I'm not going to get too in depth with it, but I'm just saying it's pretty shitty that people are going to give these people a hand on the back, and it's fine. Just make sure you don't do it again, you little rascal. Meg turns 18, and as a result, Quagmire tries to spit game. This is an episode that really goes to show how shitty Quagmire is. Even when Peter begs Quagmire not to go through with this, he says, and quote,
Peter, it's me, Quagmire. This is what I do. Besides, Meg is 18 now, and you've got to let go. You've done your job. It's my turn now.
What an unlikable piece of shit. Well, some people can argue, well, at least he's acting in character. No, Peter's supposedly one of his best friends, right? He should accept his best friend's wishes and not do this. But instead, it's me, Quagmire. I need to bone your daughter. It's kind of what I do. What an unlikable fuck. I will give the episode credit that Peter and Lois do act like parents and they do try to help their daughter. But still. Meg spills some sauce on a guy's jacket, and as a result, he's going to kick her ass for it. There's a side plot of Peter constantly showing himself naked to Brian. This episode is much more cruel to Meg, which I didn't think would actually happen. Honestly, I didn't think the show could get even more cruel to Meg. But because she's going to fight this guy, a lot of people are pretty much hyping it up. Even the fucking school faculty is hyping it up. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the school faculty supposed to jump in when stuff like this happens? Like, I guess not. But the episode is decent, I guess, with the side plot because it's kind of funny, I guess. But at the same time, it doesn't really fix up how cruel the episode is to Meg. Even when she begs her friends to help her, they end up fading away into the shadows. Luckily, Quagmire does come to the rescue to help Meg, but still, it's a pretty cruel, fucked up, and just unpleasant episode to watch. There's a reason why I put this episode higher than Seahorse Seashell Party, and we're going to explain that right now. This one is way worse than Seahorse Seashell Party, in my personal opinion, and I think you guys might agree with me on this. So, because somebody takes Meg's ID and ends up in a car crash, everybody thinks that Meg is actually dead. So as a result, Meg gets away from her abusive family, and she has new friends and a new life in a new place. She's actually happy for once. But sadly, she goes right back to the Griffins. Why? Nostalgia. You know, that very thing that Disney loves to fucking make money off of? Yeah, that. Like, she sees a picture of herself as a baby in Lois's feet and thinks, I need to go back to that family. Why? You were doing so good. You had new friends. You had a new identity. You had a new life. Why would you want to go back to the Griffins? No, and what makes things worse is that Chris has her locked up in a warehouse and he doesn't want her to come back because he's too popular. Another character that ends up getting killed and destroyed for the sake of the plot. And there's this whole scene dedicated to Meg bashing her head against the concrete. That's just wonderful. That's what I want to see in my animated series. But yeah, this episode is way worse than Seahorse Seashell Party because, yeah, the message of saying how abusive victims should stay in abusive relationships for their abuser's benefit is a bad message. But at the same time, it's way worse here because Meg, the victim, actively got out of the abusive relationship with her abusive partner, i.e. her family. But she comes crawling back. And what's worse is that the fuckers didn't even know she was dead. They thought that a barrel with Meg's hat was Meg. Yeah, go back to the family. What's gonna happen? It's not that serious. It's just an animated series. I fucking hate this episode. In this episode, Lois gets Principal Shepard fired, so he ends up staying at the Griffin household. And there's a side plot of Stewie selling books on Brian's likeness. You know how in Phantom Strider's video, he talked about House Full of Peters, and it was basically just a tropey episode with the clone the main character trope, cheating trope. Yeah, this is the exact same thing here. Basically, it's The character going in the main character's house for extended periods of time, eventually being a bunch of unlikable douchebags, and then they have no choice but to kick that character out because that character was being a pain in the ass. Except there's a twist here because Shepard actively locks them in their basement. I thought this whole trope died back in 2010. What is it doing in 2020? Chris ends up taking a sole heir to Carter's fortune after spending some time with him, and Peter decides to start ass-kissing up to his son. This episode is the best example of how they constantly keep making gross-out jokes. There's so many disgusting moments, as I've shown in my ranking video, and I'll show some here. And it eventually leads to Peter wanting to marry his son. Incest, ain't it funny? Ain't it hilarious? Oh yeah, it's so funny. And it eventually ends with the family coming to Chris's aid, telling them not to marry Peter because it's not right. And Chris has this fucking heartwarming speech that doesn't mean anything because he knows that his father wants to marry him because of the money. So what the fuck? After winning the lottery, Peter starts to become an ass. Let's start with the obvious fact that this episode is a giant ripoff of the first episode of the series. Remember when the Griffins got rich on welfare and instead of taking it back, Peter decides to keep it because he wanted to keep his family happy? The biggest problem with the episode is Peter himself. He acts like such a fucking ass. He ends up attacking his friends because, hey, I'm Peter and I'm rich. I can do whatever I want. And then when Peter ends up losing everything, I find it baffling that Joe and Quagmire are willing to help him. After all the shit he did to them. He shot Joe's eye out with a BB gun. What the hell? Yeah, this episode deserves to be placed on my list because it actively fucked up one of the best episodes in the series for me.
Until I found.
Talking about sexual harassment, sure, why not? In this episode, Peter gets contacts because his glasses are busted, resulting in Angela sexually harassing him to the point where she tries to rape him. And at the end of the episode, they let Angela win. I hate this episode, and there's this one line that Lois says to Peter, where she says that men can't be sexually harassed because men like being touched by women. Hate to break it to you, men can be sexually harassed as well. If the Amber Heard situation has taught me anything, is that, yeah, men can be sexually harassed and abused by women. They're capable of doing that shit too. And I feel like it's this episode that would make women have the thought that men can't be sexually harassed, especially fucking feminists and social justice warriors. I feel like they would jump down that pile. They would think, oh, men, you can't be sexually harassed. You're a fucking man. You're the strong ones that dominate the women. You fucking sexist, mansplaining, man-spreading pieces of shit. I feel like that's something they would say. I guarantee you that. So yeah, this episode is bad because it tackles a serious issue and doesn't do it in an appropriate way. It doesn't handle it with any respect, and it expects you to laugh at it because, hey, look, a man's getting sexually harassed. That is so funny. Stewie and Brian decide to become blood brothers, and as a result, he gets herpes from Brian. That's just wonderful. What a fucking douchebag. And there's a side plot of the guys trying to get their favorite booth back because it got taken over by these fucking soldiers. Like, I kid you not, these random soldiers that just appear to be soldiers at the end of the episode. I'll explain why I hate this episode. Brian's an asshole because he doesn't even try to stop Stewie, and he's pretty much okay with it. And what's even worse is that he gave herpes to Chris, and he continues to keep spreading herpes around. What a fucking asshole. And at the end of the episode, the moral is that you shouldn't lie. No, it's that you shouldn't give your friends diseases. That makes you a giant fucking asshole. And the side plot with Peter and his friends is just as bitter, because when the guys don't want to fight the army guys, they end up getting bullied by their friends and family. What the fuck? So this episode is cruel to Stewie, Peter, and Joe and Quagmire. For what reason? Why? And even when Peter and the guys do fight these army guys, it turns out they can't. Oh my god, they were soldiers. Wow, you guys are disgusting. You guys are fuckers. Another shitty episode that I don't want to spend much time on because I'm really about to punch the wall. Another fucking season 12 episode. You know what? I'm going to be quite frank with you guys. Season 12 is by far my least favorite season of the entire show. It had nothing but weak, disgusting, and outright horrible episodes. Many of the episodes on this list come from season 12. And this episode is no exception. Brian decides to emotionally manipulate his son so that he could get a writing gig on his show. And there's a side plot of Peter trying to be friends with Quagmire after he shot him during a hunting trip. This episode is fucking horrible. This episode really goes to show how fucked up both Brian and Peter are. Peter being so fucking stupid to the point where he decides to shoot his best friend and not give Susie a raspberry. That's disgusting. That's not funny. Like, really emotionally manipulating his son by saying, hey, you know, we could be on a writing gig. It's like the universe are bringing us close together. Such a pretentious piece of shit. And this episode is infamous because of the scene where Peter acts how to kill himself. You do realize that your audience is 14 and up, right? It even says it in the tiny, look, the tiny corner right there. 14. Your audience is 14, Family Guy. And this is the demographic that's known to cutting. So you basically instructed your audience on how to hurt themselves. That's just wonderful. What an amazing show. You know what? I'll give South Park and The Simpsons credit. They never instructed their audience on how to kill themselves. What can I say? This episode is by far one of the most disgusting episodes in the series, and it's obvious that this episode gets to be placed in the top 5 because this episode is that bad. The only thing I found shocking about this episode is that it's not from season 12. Ain't that something? In this episode, Stewie and Brian's relationship is deteriorating, so he decides to get himself pregnant so that they could have a baby because babies save relationships. And the side plot with Peter and the guys trying to make a viral video, I don't give a fuck about that. The problem with this episode is that it's so disgusting. It's not funny. There's no humor here. Where's the humor? Oh, is that it's because, Stewie's a baby and Brian is horrified. They make jokes at Brian's expense and they keep repeating the exact same jokes over and over again. Brian not liking this, Brian trying to force a miscarriage, Stewie forgetting the fact that he's a baby, Stewie being an idiot. It's like, for God's sake, this episode is bad. This episode is horrible. And later, one by one, all these babies end up getting murdered. Yeah, that's very funny. In this episode, Quagmire's sister comes to visit Quagmire after he died of autoerotic asphyxiation with her horrifically over-the-top abusive boyfriend. The whole episode is making a commentary on domestic abuse. Family Guy, you're not capable of handling this properly. The Simpsons? Yes. South Park? Sure. BoJack Horseman? Absolutely. Family Guy? Hell no. Whenever you guys do tackle a serious issue, you tend to make it as over-exaggerative as possible. And whenever you do tackle a serious issue, you basically treat it with the most disrespect I've ever seen from an animated series. You don't take it with any sincerity or clarity. And also the scene where Quagmire tells the abusive victim that you don't deserve to be called a woman because you're in an abusive relationship, that is some demented shit, and that's probably one of the most horrible advice I've ever heard from this series. And it goes against Seahorse Seashell Party because Seahorse Seashell Party said that if you were in an abusive relationship, you're strong and heroic. Now this episode's basically debunking that episode by saying, oh no, you're the equivalent of garbage, you're not a woman. What the fuck is wrong with you? And what's even worse is that we really don't know much about Brenda or Jeff for that matter. So I ended up feeling nothing for both of them because they don't really give us anything other than she's an abusive victim and he's the abuser. That's about it. That's all you need to know. What can I say? It really is one of the worst Family Guy episodes, and I can see why a lot of people don't really like it. Some people may say it's not that bad because, it does try to fight for people that are in abusive relationships. I don't know. They handle it very fucking poorly to the point where I think, fuck their attempts. It doesn't mean jack shit. You need pitch perfect execution. Otherwise, throw this episode in the garbage. I remember I watched this video where somebody listed this as one of the worst Family Guy episodes. And yep, it is one of the worst Family Guy episodes, alright? The Griffins go to Washington, D.C. to hang out with the Trump family. The biggest problem with this episode is that it doesn't really add any commentary to Donald Trump. All we know is that, oh, he has small hands. Oh, he has a weird haircut. Oh, he has orange skin. Oh, he has a weird name. Oh, he's not really as witch as he brags himself up to be. Like, all these type of jokes that we've known about Donald Trump in the 4 years we've had to deal with him. We've already known all these jokes. And you acknowledging how late you are on these jokes is not better. And what's the plot focusing on? Oh, he sexually groped a woman. Wow, that's all you got? Really? You had to waste fucking 20 minutes of my time just to say, oh, Trump groped a woman. Like, actually do some fucking commentary. Yeah, right. And the fight between Peter and Donald Trump doesn't really feel as good as the previous chicken fights. For one, it takes place in one location. When it came to the other fights, they were all over the place. Even with Homer and Peter, they were going outside of Springfield. With this episode, it's just staying in Washington, D.C. And they end the episode by saying they changed 0 minds. So what the fuck was the point of making this episode if you knew you wouldn't change any minds? Before we get to number 1, we need to take a look at some dishonorable mentions. I still can't believe that this is the lowest rated episode. After watching it again, yeah, it is kind of annoying at times, but at the same time, it's not really insulting or anything. These episodes on my list are more insulting than this episode. Moving on. Brian doesn't jump his girlfriend on the first date, and as a result, his girlfriend ends up jumping Cleveland's bones. Ain't that just lovely? It is one of the more mean-spirited episodes, and I would expect this kind of thing from Quagmire, not Cleveland. So there's massive character derailment here. Stewie, Brian, and Quagmire tried to take an old woman's fortune, and there's a side plot of Herbert taking a liking to Peter because he thinks he's a kid. First of all, the whole thing doesn't make sense because Herbert himself has met Peter on multiple occasions. The main plot is very mean-spirited, as we have 3 of our characters trying hard to get some money. And there's this long-running gag where the characters say this person's name, and it's literally a still image of the characters waiting for that other character to stop talking. Yeah, one of the worst. And if this was on the list, it would definitely be 21. After losing his job because he kept fucking around with a forklift, yes, this is the episode with the infamous whale gutting scene, Peter ends up losing his job and he ends up becoming a house husband. And as a result, he can't perform well in bed. Why is that a plot line? A big slap in the face to Christians everywhere. While I'm personally not insulted by this episode, I can see why other Christians are. In this episode, Brian points out how he's an atheist, and as a result, he gets berated by everybody. And there's a side plot with Stewie hanging out with the cast of Star Trek. I did like the side plot, but the main plot is just pretty bad. I can see why some people don't really like this episode, but I didn't mind it that much. Some people say it's not really funny, and I did point out in my ranking video that it does take jabs at other shows more successful than them, and that is pretty petty. But at the same time, I thought it was rather decent. It wasn't really anything insulting. Now, just take out that scene where Brian and Stewie fucking kiss, and you're golden. Yep. This is my least favorite Family Guy episode in the entire series. Out of all the horrible shit that this series has done in its 20-year legacy, this is by far one of the worst things they've ever done. In this episode, Brian dies, so as a result, the family decide to get a new dog. Everybody likes this new dog, Vinny, but Stewie, so he ends up resenting him. The biggest problem with this episode is that it is a blatant ratings trap. Honestly, They throw Vinny in the intro sequence, and he ends up getting kicked off because Brian comes back one episode later. So what was really the point in bringing back Brian, and what was the point of killing him off? You could have actually done something experimental with the series. I don't know, do something. Do something to justify this choice. But nope, they just decided, no, we'll bring him back. Just stop writing us angry letters, please. What's even worse about this episode is that it tried to bring sympathy to a character who has very much lost it. Everybody was pretty much done with Brian at this point. And the reason why I list this as my least favorite Family Guy episode is because this marks the moment in the franchise where Family Guy stopped caring. Seth MacFarlane himself stated that Family Guy should have ended around season 7. As he says it is an appropriate lifespan for the show to run. And I can't help but feel like he was right. Even with some of the later seasons, like from seasons 8 to 11, there were some good episodes in there. There were some good episodes that felt like, yeah, I know what he's trying to do. But with this season alone, there were so many terrible episodes that weren't funny, that weren't humorous, that were disgusting, that were used for shock value. And this is why ultimately I hold season 12 as the worst season, because it contains the worst episode in the entire series. And after they bring Brian back, he ends up doing so much horrible shit over the course of this season. Emotionally manipulating his son, that was from season 12. Giving his best friend herpes, that's season 12 as well. There's so much evidence of Brian being a piece of shit in this one season. So I feel like, yeah, this is, in my opinion, the worst episode in the series because it marks the end of what I consider to being a great series. Fuck season 12, fuck this episode, and more importantly, fuck you, Family Guy. So yeah, that is today's video. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you did, tell me what you guys think. Which one of your episodes are the least favorite of Family Guy? Or just talk about any show. What are some shows that you do watch? And what are some episodes that you think are the worst of your favorite shows? Tell me in the comment section below. And also, make sure you check out Kai and Omnia, please. Just check them out. Give them some love. Give them as much love and support as you can. Because, come on, we need to spread some love around this community. It's too filled with toxicity. Just spread it around. Spread some love around. Because why not, right? So, yeah, that is today's video, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.